opportunities, and the barriers to investment in the European space.
Hello, I'm Stephen Oliver, along with Matthew Lawson. We are the Canna Consultants, a UK-based consultancy, and I'm here today to talk to you about the barriers and opportunities to investment in the European space. I suppose, broadly speaking, we can describe the market as having three elements. First being recreational, the second medicinal, including pharmaceutical companies and medicinal cannabis, and the third, the CBD or the supplemental market. Until recently, you could be forgiven for having dismissed the recreational market in the European space. We've all seen from afar the success in North America and the problems that came with that in both Canada and the States. But that's all changing. Luxembourg is leading the charge in the European space, and their current government intends to have legislation by 2024 which will not decriminalise but which will actually legalise the recreational use of cannabis. Now, that in itself presents an opportunity, and we see within the next 5 years a number of other states following this precedent. Most probably Northern Europe along with the likes of Poland and Germany, but also we could see an emergence from Southern Europe with Spain and Portugal following suit. If the UK are to decriminalise or legalise cannabis, then essentially we have a Europe-wide opportunity in this space. But at the moment it's fraught with danger, which we'll come on to shortly. The second area is medicinal, and I think we can split that into two parts. We can look at the medicinal cannabis products which are prescribed, and perhaps some of the smaller states take a lead with this. In particular, I would look to Malta, North Macedonia, and Germany has to be seen to be leading the charge ultimately. And then we have the pharmaceutical companies, who at the moment are lagging behind slightly, but that's probably because of the lengthy and costly trials. So we would predict that in the next 2 or 3 years, they will actually overtake the medicinal cannabis products once their products come to market. We then have the CBD and cannabinoid supplement market, which until recently has been burgeoning. In the UK alone, the market's estimated to be worth 300 million. That probably brings us on to forecasts. So the cannabis space, or the legal cannabis industry, is forecast to explode over the coming years, with forecasts ranging from 3.5 billion across Europe to 64 to 65 billion by 2028. Whatever those figures are, and nobody knows at the moment, what we have seen from the States is that those investments are risky, and if you back the right horse, they can be very, very successful. So what are some of the barriers? Well, the first barrier would be investing in activity which was deemed criminal in the country that you reside in. Across Europe, there is anti-money laundering legislation, and in the United Kingdom, we have the Proceeds of Crime Act. This has been a barrier to many people wishing to invest in Northern America, but not necessarily so now in Europe, as we see a number of states legalising activity. It's probably still a very high risk, and that's because the laws are not harmonised. The laws are broadly drafted and have left many people wondering whether or not they would expose themselves to criminal sanctions. Let's briefly look at POCA. There are some defences drawn in there. We have what's called the Spanish bullfighter defence, which literally means a Spanish bullfighter from a region of Spain where bullfighting is lawful, coming to the UK where it's illegal and spending his wages. And there's an exemption in the regulations, which was introduced in 2005, which states that if the offence conducted was punishable by less than 12 months imprisonment in the UK, then if it was lawful in the country where the investment was made, that's an absolute defence to the criminal sanctions. Unfortunately, in the UK, possession and supply, cultivation of cannabis are serious offences, and maximum sentences range from five years for possession up to 14 for the supply and cultivation. So that's not a really true defence. There are what we call suspicious activity reports, which means that you can advise the National Crime Agency in advance of making an investment and ask whether or not that would be exempt. The problem with that is it has to be made for each and every investment. Although there we've seen progress. There's been a recent consultation which has resulted in a recommendation that a SARS, a declaration, could cover a whole host of investments transactions. So investment, share, capital and remuneration. Another glimmer of hope there, I think, is the fact that if you are investing in a company and that company then decides to move, or that fund moves into the cannabis space, that would appear to be a fairly robust defence. But we're not looking for defences, we're looking for avoiding any type of criminal sanction. And I think we'll see harmonisation of laws across Europe, and the withdrawal agreement, once it's finally concluded, will have a manifest effect in the UK. Obviously, legalisation in the coming years will have a direct effect, but at the moment the industry is beset with barriers. The barriers to investment are large, but they are coming down. I think we could really summarise the barriers to investment into sort of 4 groups. And the first would be the lack of harmonisation, as we've just discussed, with regard to laws, varying laws at European level and in each individual member state. Secondly, there is a mistrust from medical professions. So when we're looking at cannabis products and we're looking at cannabis-based medicinal products and pharmaceutical products, we still have real barriers to prescription, and that's limiting the amount of revenue that can be generated. Clearly things are changing in Germany, who are again taking the lead with regard to the number of patients who can access these products. But the problem still exists. In the UK, for example, in Ireland, we have huge public patient demand, but that's just not being facilitated. I think thirdly, there's a lack of funding for research and development, and we would hope that that will change. Malta certainly seems to be encouraging that area for investment. And I think finally, companies themselves are potentially to blame because of misinformation and because of the way the message about the plant has been spread. So drawing to a conclusion, there are barriers to investment, there are immense opportunities, and I think because we may see a switch between medicinal to recreational in the future, cultivation can be difficult to change, so switching from one species of plant to another takes time. So perhaps one of the best bets at the moment for investment would be those involved in extraction and processing, who can very quickly gear to an alternative method and offer a safe haven for investment. Thank you very much. If you'd like to discuss this further, then Matt and I would be more than happy to pick this up on a Zoom. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, albeit briefly. Thank you very much.